Let me tell you a fun fact. Within the last 2 centuries, more than 90% of the world's millionaires have been created by investing in real estate. But if done incorrectly, without the right knowledge, required skills, or partners, it can also create a ton of problems and a lot of sleepless nights. You feel like sometimes there are way too many gurus out there trying to sell you on a weekend course, or just too much noise to cut right to the facts? Yup, we did too, and this is why we started this podcast. Our goal is to provide real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and enthusiasts with all of the most recent knowledge, secrets, tips, tricks, and tactics so that you can grow your own portfolios, increase your returns, net worth, and most importantly, create generational wealth for you and your loved ones. Remember, this is your real estate career. Information is your sword and shield, so eat hearty, prepare for battle, and grind your way to victory. My name is Tejas Gosai. I'm joined by my partner, Jeremy Moyer, and we welcome you to the Real Estate Investor MBA podcast. Welcome back to your favorite real estate podcast. It's Real Estate Investor MBA. I'm Tejas Gosai. This is my partner, Jeremy Moyer.
How you doing?
We have a great show today. Asset management is the heartbeat of real estate. I don't think enough people give it credit or know how to manage it well. It's good to hear from Krista. She knows her stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we had Krista Testani on from Sharpline Equity. So Krista began her career practicing law for several years before her attention was drawn to real estate in 2009. She started out acquiring single-family houses, transitioned to multifamily in 2012. Krista joined forces with Chris Jackson, her partner, in 2016. As I've just mentioned, they formed Sharpline Equity. They've been involved in multifamily acquisitions, over like 1,200 units. 6 different states. Their value is over 70 million. Raised a bunch of cash. I think as she mentioned in the interview, over 30 million. 8 different properties they've gone full cycle with, which is really cool. So Krista is also the co-founder of a real estate networking group. We're going to link it into the show notes. It's called Multifamily Apartment Investing Unveiled. It's a really cool group to be a part of. A lot of great content shared. Her primary goal in real estate is to share those learning moments, along the way to help others prepare for them, either if they're in the passive or the active side in real estate. So, today's episode was tremendous. We went over their 6 pillars of asset management. She really went into some detail, more detail than I originally thought. I think everybody's going to take a lot away from today's episode.
Yeah, it's like a little seminar today. 6 pillars. Everyone who listens to this should follow them. You'll hear why.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Real Estate Investor MBA show. We're excited to talk with today's guest, Krista Testani. Krista, how you doing?
Hi, I'm so
Welcome.
excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Definitely excited to have you.
We're excited to get into it today. But before we get into that, could you take a few minutes and give our listeners an idea who the real Krista is and, how you got started investing in real estate?
Yeah, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. I'm from New York, Long Island, in case anyone can't tell from the accents.
Love it.
And I'm an attorney by trade. And I was doing that for a number of years, but I call myself a disgruntled attorney. I really wasn't happy in my career. And I didn't know really what I wanted to do next. I kind of back-ended into real estate. It was really more of a suggestion of my husband. He was a retired firefighter, and he really wanted to get into it. And in 2008, during that crash, there were a ton of distressed homes on Long Island. So I quit my job cold turkey. I don't recommend anyone do that, but that is what I did. I quit my job cold turkey, and we formed a business with a few other partners and started buying distressed homes on Long Island. The model was buy, rehab, sell. So we did that for a couple of years, but I really struggled trying to figure out how to scale that model. And so I started researching online, and I found a mentoring program very local to me on Long Island back in the day when there wasn't a lot of online activity. And people actually went and physically saw their coach and, across the table. And he had just started a program. I was one of his first students. It's really an excellent program. He doesn't do it anymore, but he really gave me a great foundation. It was a year-long program that taught about multifamily acquisitions, syndications. I started out of the gate syndicating right away, and he gave me that foundation. And then I broke up my partnership with my husband. Decided the marriage was more important than working with him as a partner. Went off on my own, and that's how I got into multifamily. So my first multifamily acquisition was 2013 in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Bravo. Great resume. I did not know that you were ex-attorney. I went to law school, never became an attorney. I'm
Ah,
happy I didn't make that
yeah.
mistake.
Not to insult any attorneys out there, but I don't think you made the wrong choice.
Well, no, I do have to say though, I think almost every attorney or somebody who went to law school that's in real estate has, a really good acumen. It really was the best foundational.
It's
uh,
absolutely right. A
yeah,
foundation, like I don't regret going to law school. I don't regret the education I got because I'm applying it every day. So it's not that was God had something else planned for me though, to use this skill set in a different way. So I finally found my purpose.
I agree. And if there's any JDs or lawyers out there, you should get into real estate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Jeremy, you want to kick on some questions?
Sure, sure. So today we are primarily covering asset management. So Krista was with Sharpline Equity, right? And Sharpline has these pillars of asset management. But before we dive into those pillars, Krista, can you explain to everyone like how integral those asset management pillars are to Sharpline's success?
Well, how I start off with everyone really likes to talk about the sexy part of multifamily acquisitions, which is
Mhm.
deal finding, underwriting, negotiations, rehab projects, that's like the fun stuff. But if you're not operating, operations is where you live and die, because if you can't deliver on everything that you just sold to either your JV partners, yourself, your investors, then you're in trouble. So it's not as sexy, but it's really critical that you figure out whether you're self managing or using third party management. Now, my training, because I was in New York, right out of the gate, my mentor was like, "You do not have to invest in your backyard. You don't have to do that, and in fact, you don't want to do that if you're in New York." Insurance, legal, the landlord tenant situation, the laws in New York, insurance and taxes. Those are the three reasons you may want to look beyond your own backyard to invest. So he trained me to think that way right away. I had no limiting belief that I needed to buy a property in a local market. But our pillars of asset management apply whether you're self-managing or whether you're using third-party management. And it's really about the idea, and especially for those people though that are asset managing and they do have a third-party manager. What the main gist and the main drive of what I try to convey with people, and I hope it lands on them, is that asset management is not in any way this supervisory type of role where you hand off your property to a management team and you sit back and wait for the reporting and then make decisions based on that reporting. It is hands on, roll up your sleeves, get ready to work, because you are working as hard or harder than your management team in the field to drive income and manage expenses. I don't want people to think in any way, shape, or form that asset management is simpler or doesn't take as much time as self management or in any way is like a part-time job. And I say this really respecting people who start off in real estate still having a W-2. In fact, I couldn't do it. So I respect people so much that are dipping their toe into real estate, and but they need to keep their W-2 income for many obvious reasons. I was lucky enough to have a spouse who supported me as I quit my six-figure job and then struggled to figure out what I was going to do with my life for the next 2 years. God bless him. So I say this with a lot of respect, but for those people who do go into real estate with a W-2, but this is not a part-time thing. You
Yeah.
need to be doing this full time. So you may be working double hours if you still have that W-2. But it requires consistent, consistent time. And so then, and so that's why we developed, after a lot of trial and error with I've bought and sold many, I bought and sold, I think, 4 multifamily acquisitions before I formed Sharpline Equity with my partner, Chris. Um, so we both brought a lot to the table with respect to experience, mistakes, things we did right, things we did wrong. And over time, we realized being systemized is very important in everything that you do. And with asset management, we realized, oh, you know what? There's very significant and purposeful areas of asset management that you have to, I keep saying asset management in general, that you have to concentrate on all of the time. And we actually categorize them and name them so that when we are talking to other people about it, we give it a name and we can explain what it is.
So
That's a great summary, Krista. Can we start unpacking what those are,
Yeah,
just so our listeners can take something away? Yep.
right. So the first one is, again, this is probably more targeted towards people who are utilizing third-party management, because the first pillar is your on-site management relationship and what you have to do to establish it. And I guess it works with self-management as well, because even with self-management, um, if you're managing beyond a few units, you're going to actually have other people working for you, right? It's not just, unless you want to be the one that's collecting the rent and fixing the toilet bowls, right? So it really it applies, but in the context of me talking, I'm going to probably steer it a little bit towards those third party management companies, because the first thing that's really, it is the biggest pillar, because they're your most important team member. So you have to be so careful in your choices. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is vetting out these companies is critical. Don't just, Google management companies and pick the first one. You have to be really clear in your interviewing process with respect to what building you have, the market, the asset class, the size, and make sure your management company has experience in that market, in that asset class, in that size. Um, I talk to people about something that they probably don't think about going in, and I only realize it because it happened to us. Some of us are in much smaller tertiary markets. We're not all in, the big markets where there's a lot of choices. So I say be very careful when you're going into tertiary markets, because your choices may be limited. And one of the things I tell people that I'm talking to about this particular pillar is, if at all possible, when you're vetting out your companies and you're about to hire someone, if you can possibly choose a backup B, like that B property, the B property manager, you chose the A, or what you thought was the A, because I promise you, I literally promise you, that in your career, you will be moving management companies. You will come upon instances where they don't deliver despite your best efforts in vetting and working with them. They're not going to deliver to your expectations. You're going to have to make a move. And it's not fun. I've done it 3 times. It is, you lose time and you lose money when you have to do this. You also have to be careful about the messaging when you're delivering that news to your investors. They need to have confidence that when you're making the move, you know what you're doing it for the right reasons. But the point of this is, it will probably happen. So if at all possible, if you can have that other, oh, like, if I didn't have this one, I'd go with that one. If you have those people in your files to call, and in the tertiary markets, that's a little bit more difficult, because sometimes it's really slim pickings with respect to who you're going to choose. The other thing about on-site management, besides the importance of vetting, the importance of having a backup if at all possible, is just your ongoing relationship with them. I'll say, I've said it once, I'm going to say it again. They're the most important team member. So it is really important to, number one, set up expectations with your management company. I go in full blast when I'm interviewing with them, and I talk to them about how we operate our properties and what we expect with respect to reporting, what we expect regarding communication. All of our management companies, I talk to them about the fact I'd like a weekly meeting, a set time. I respect their time. I expect them to respect ours. I don't ever want to set up an expectation that we'll be calling them 7 days a week at any given hour. So I'd like to set up reasonable boundaries right away. Hey, you're busy, you have other clients, we're busy, we have other properties, but can we commit to a 30-minute call every Wednesday at 3 o'clock and go over everything? And a lot of companies, you'll be surprised, a lot of companies have pushed back a little bit with that. Oh, I'll do a weekly in the beginning, but we're going to go to monthly, right, Krista? And, the answer is no. I never go to monthly. I will go to biweekly at a certain point after a property is stabilized and I'm comfortable with operations. We will definitely move to biweekly. It makes it easier on ourselves as well because we're managing a lot of properties. But in the beginning, until we reach that comfort level, it's a weekly call. And twice I've had companies not willing to do that. So twice we walked away. So setting expectations is really important because you don't want to hire someone and be in the middle of your operations and then have all of this conflict because they are taken by surprise, right? By what you expect and what they expect. So setting expectations is very important with your management company. And then when I say team, you're working as a team, it's really important to let them know as much as you expect from them to work hard, you're the type, at least we are, the type of owner where we're here to support management, not just to dictate how we want the property run and then again sit back and wait for them to perform. We're very much about we're here to support you. So if there's things that you're having challenges with, you know, we're doing this long enough now that we can jump in and help. Where a lot of owners feel like they need to be hands off and not interject in the process, we're the opposite. Like we need to know that our management companies are flexible and will allow us to jump in when we want to. Will allow us to help with managing lead flow. That's an example of something we had. We struggled on a property with the management company processing leads, and we ended up jumping in and developing a system to help process leads. We now use that system with all of our properties. So you want to let your property management company know that you're there to support, you're there to help. It's a team effort, you know. And then the last thing that I'm going to say, because it's just the most important relationship besides maybe with your investors, that's an important relationship. You have to be demanding, you have to set expectations, you have to be on top of them, have to do all those things. So remember to be appreciative and to be thankful, right? You need to acknowledge when they're doing things right. That's just as important as holding them accountable and having them, and dealing with situations where they're underperforming, right? And you always have to have those difficult conversations when they're not performing the way you want them to, or so balance out those conversations with acknowledging when they're doing things right. That's going to be really important in the ongoing relationship. It's a very important relationship in the structure of your overall operations is how you interact with your management company or management team, even if it's self-management.
Love it, Krista. Tons of good stuff there. Hey, can you brag about Sharpline for a second? Where you guys are, how many assets, some of the fun numbers, just so the listeners get an understanding of how crazy you are.
Yeah, I wish I had the bio in front of me because I'm starting to lose track. I mean, at this point, we've I feel like I want to say 8 or 9. We've gone full cycle on 8 or 9 deals. Well, that means we've purchased multifamily, operated it, and then sold it. And that's really important because um, we're at a point, and it takes time to get there, where uh, we can talk about results, right? Not only what our projections were on a particular property, but we can actually, we have a track record of results at this point of and some were outstanding results and some were mediocre results, but we have results that we could show. We've raised at this point, over time, I think we've had $70 million in assets. Currently, we have, I should know this, right?
No,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 8. We have 8 properties that we're currently managing. We're closing another property at the end of March and another one at the end of April. We've raised up to date in private capital about $30 million.
bravo.
So those are some of the quick
Yeah,
tidbits.
thank you for that. Jeremy, we got to keep going, but we got to go
Yeah,
a little bit
absolutely.
faster.
No, I
Yeah,
I love the first pillar, the
that's
relationships.
the most important one.
Yeah,
I'm going to rattle off just the other ones that
sure.
are really important, and then
Please.
I could do it more quickly.
Mm,
It's the other ones that are really important. I'm going to say is delinquency management, renewal management, um, your prospective your prospect leads, your marketing, and your how you handle your leads, community development, and reputation management. So I'm going to throw those out there. Those are
Yeah,
what they are. And if you want, I'll just quickly give you kind of the summary, the Reader's Digest, right? So
yeah,
delinquency management is the title is very
mm,
clear, right? It is about managing delinquency, which is going to be important because it happens on every deal. I don't care if you have an A asset or a D asset, you are always going to have people who are not paying on time. All I'm going to say about delinquency management is you need to consistently be on top of it, and you need to work out with your management company your approach on how you're handling delinquency. Are you going to work out deals with tenants, or do you only accept full pay? Are you going to do workout plans or not? And what type of reporting you want regarding delinquency management, and it's it's so relevant to driving your income that you manage and reduce delinquency as much as possible. It's very important that you concentrate on that on your weekly calls. Renewal management is about retaining your good tenants.
mhm,
So make an effort to do things that will make them want to stay on the property. Offer little upgrades to their units before they renew, a new lighting package, or ask them, is there something that if what is your wish list on what you'd want improved in your unit, and maybe provide that to them as an incentive to renewal,
mhm,
renew their lease. Prospective resident marketing. What I want to talk about that is, I'm not going to go into the details of our system, but other than to say, time is your enemy when it comes to lead processing. You need to turn around leads quickly, qualify them, and get them to the table to sign a lease. The reason we developed our own um, lead processing system is because the problem we were having with our management company is there were plenty of leads, but they weren't getting to them fast enough. So you let someone linger for a day or two and don't get back to them, they're gone. They
mhm,
found it. Someone who's looking for a property, to move into, they need something, right? So the faster, the better. So you can't let leads go stale. It's really important to have real time response to lead processing. So that's what's important about that. Community development and reputation management kind of go hand in hand. Community development is about creating a sense of community on the property.
mhm,
So things that we do, welcome packages to all of our residents when they move in. We do quarterly newsletters, that get distributed, that talk about things that we feel are important, things that may be going on the property, a Halloween event for the kids. We've done, we've done things, just little things throughout the year. Breakfast, some type, I forgot what we called it, grab and go breakfast, where we set up coffee table with a little thing that, whether it be parents or kids, could grab a cup of coffee and some breakfast food on their way to school or work. Just these little events. You only have to do a couple during the year. Obviously, around the holiday makes sense, holiday time, to give everyone a sense that they live in a community and not just an apartment building. Okay. And then reputation management, very important, because you want the extended community to have to know about you and that the feedback is good. So the important thing there is get online and check out the reviews.
yeah,
Right? Get online and check out the reviews, and make sure your management company is constantly responding to negative and or encouraging tenants who have dealt with you and there was a good outcome to go online and give you a good review.
Yep.
So that beyond your property lines, the extended community knows about you, and that your reputation is good.
The whole world revolves around reviews.
Amen.
Terrible.
Amen. Yep. Amen. It is what it is, right? So
Totally.
don't hide from it. Take it on. Take it on.
I love the community aspect. I think a lot of real estate investors are so numbers oriented. It's, everything's crystal clear. It's, black or white. But at the end of the day, this is people. Our clients are people, their families, and I love that's what you guys implement as one of your pillars. I mean, it goes a long way. Right?
It's about, we approach our business twofold. It is about providing an income vehicle for ourselves and our investors,
Hmm.
and it is also about providing um, a living space and where there's been value added to it because we took it over in some way, shape, or form, whether our operations are better and our services are better than the previous owner, or we've rehabbed the premises so the condition of the property is better. But it's about adding value to the residents and adding value to our clients' pocketbook. Both are important. They're equally important.
That's
Totally.
tremendous, Krista. Obviously investors should be implementing these pillars, but do you see any common mistakes, and maybe it's not implementing one or a couple of them, that other multifamily investors are making on the asset management side that they're not doing, or just can be from your perspective?
I think in general, probably one of the biggest mistakes, and it took us time to figure it out too, is not being consistent.
Mm.
When I started out, okay, when I started out, my first property, I'll never forget. I used to get on a call um, on a monthly basis. I did it monthly. That was a mistake. I learned that, and I was just like, okay, tell me what's going on with the property. Like I had no system in place and there was no consistency to anything I did. I was just like getting on the call and let's chit chat. And I think people need to think of, they set up systems for so many different things in their business. How are they driving leads into, property leads into their pipeline? How are they nurturing their relationships with brokers so they could get more leads? And everyone talks about all these different systems that they utilize to do it. And then they buy the building and now they have it. And it's like, okay, let's hop in and do this. You need to have systems in place and then you need to be consistent with what you're doing with those systems. So I want people to think about asset management in a much more organized way.
Mhm.
It's not just about checking in with your manager and saying, hey, what's going on? It's about, hey, let's talk about delinquency. Let's talk about what you're doing on renewals. Let's talk about, what's going on with the leads. Let's talk about what are we doing next for our community development what's the next thing on the calendar. Let's talk about when was the last time you got online? You know what? And we go
Mhm.
over that on a regular basis. So I want people to approach self management or asset management in a more organized way. Don't be so haphazard about it because then you're always just reacting and you're
Mhm.
never proactive. You're just reactive in your management style. We all have to react sometimes to things and be able to pivot, to the situation. But your goal should be being very proactive in your business, not reactive when it comes to operations.
Can you bring up some of the ways that you use technology and automation, or like you're working with teams? So, it's got to be a lot of data, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and that's why I'm so grateful that I did partner up with my partner Chris Jackson, who used to own a tech company, and
Nice.
so amen to that. Because I don't know if any lawyers out there know, like, our heads are in the books. I was still using a typewriter when the computers came on. Like, we're very antiquated to a certain extent. We're very stuck in our old ways. Um, and so he was the person that had the mindset to 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 get more systems in place. When it comes to communicating with ourselves as well as communicating with our teams. So he put in place, instead of just emailing each other, we use Slack now. We use something called Monday.com, which is where how we set up our tasks for ourselves, as well as when we want to task something to each other. We tried Asana for a little while. I'm not a fan. I don't mean to say that to anyone who uses Asana, just that sometimes technology needs to be simple for me. It can't be too overwhelming. There can't be too many steps to it, because then to me, it's counterproductive. But with respect to our own systems, we have we use Monday.com. We Slack to each other. Our system for asset management with respect to the lead processing, which we call RTLS, real time leasing system, is actually proprietary. So I can't actually go into details about that particular system. But just to say, there is a online system in place for that.
Yeah, so we always like to ask a fun question at the end before we
Oh,
give you
they're
the
usually
opportunity.
it's torture
Yeah,
though. Yeah, you're
yeah,
putting
yeah,
me on the
yeah.
spot.
But Chris, are you a reader?
I used to be. So I know what you're going to ask me, like my favorite book. Here's what I'm going
Well,
to say
no, no,
about
that's
this.
not what I'm
Are you
going to
not?
ask.
Okay.
I was gonna ask a book that you read recently that you took something out of it that you implement today.
Okay. So you're going to have I'm going to give you a
Yeah.
very surprising response. Number one, yes, I used to be an avid reader. The way my business has gone for the last 3 to 4 years, reading has become such a luxury,
Hmm.
because not to scare anyone, but the amount of hours that I put in, and we all have kids and this and that. I hit the pillow at night and I pass out. So reading has become more of something. Oh, I wish I could have read a book, and I don't seem to be able to find the time. I'll tell you what I do read on a regular basis that's made an impact on my life. I read the Bible. So if you're going to ask me if there's anything that's made an impact where I implement in my life every day, I'm going to tell you it's Scripture. That I've become very, very. If I don't pick up any book, I make sure I pick up that book. So that is
Awesome.
in the last the last business book I read was The Go Giver. And it was several years ago. That I could tell you that's one of my favorite business books I ever read. I'm embarrassed to say I haven't done any other reading, either pleasurable reading or like real estate reading. I don't consider real estate reading pleasurable. I just consider it like business.
Work.
It's something you got to do. I really haven't picked up a book in about a year, but I've been reading the Bible consistently now for, I'm going to say, 5 years.
Tremendous.
What an awesome answer and a good way to end the program. Krista, you're awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Really.
Thank
Can
you.
you share, if anybody wants to get in touch with you or follow you on social media or whatever, you can share whatever you want.
Sure. So www.sharpline.com is our website. We have, if you Google multifamily investing unveiled, we have a Facebook group. And that's our way of trying to give back. We try to create as much value as possible in that group by sharing information, allowing other people to use that platform to share information as well. So you can also check us out there.
Perfect.
Quick shout out to Chris Jackson. He's a good buddy with everybody. He's also very responsive on LinkedIn. But now meeting you, the other side of the battery, very honored. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys, we'll catch you next time. It's Real Estate Investor MBA, Jeremy Moyer, Tejas. Please check us out online. Krista, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Take care.